Leo here with Focus Snowboards. Thanks for joining us on a pretty frigid day in the Rockies. It's about minus 22 degrees today. We've had a bunch of fresh snow, so it's a wicked opportunity to come out and kind of introduce a few top tips of mine for riding powder and making the most of your days in the deeper snow. There's three really simple ideas that you can carry through at all levels that will help any rider kind of make the most of deeper snow, kind of help you ride longer, a little bit more efficient, and a bit less of a tax on the body, so you won't be quite as sore at the end of the day. And those three things. So the first one, we're going to be looking at the shape of our turns and the tracks that we leave in the snow, kind of the line that we choose, just to help contribute to the speed of the riding. The second one that we're going to be looking at is that good old piece of advice that you hear all the time when someone says, you got to lean back. That's the only way to ride powder, lean back. So we'll unpack that one a little bit. And then the last one that we're going to look into today is just how much edge angle we use or lack of, and how that impacts how the snowboard can or cannot float up on top of the snow to help you with your riding in deeper snow. So those are sorts of the things we're going to be getting into. We're just nearing the top of the lift now. So yeah, we'll get off, get strapped up and get into it from there. So tip number one is the shape of our turns. So a lot of the time when you're out riding, it's the shape of the turn that kind of helps define the speed that you travel at down the mountain. So when the runs get a bit steeper, the more I round my turns off, the more I can slow down, maintain and control my speed throughout that pitch. And it's pretty simple to be able to do this. All I have to do is keep continuing to use my turning and steering movements on my snowboard for more time or a longer duration through the turns. And as you can see, from a slightly steeper pitch to a mellower run, in order for me to maintain my speed or build speed if I want to, I need to be able to open up or make more of an elongated S shape to the turns. And so again, the decision to do this is pretty straightforward. All I have to do is choose to stop using my steering and turning movements through the turn and make a decision to change edge into the next turn. So pretty simple concepts, and we can unpack those more in another video, another tutorial. But for the time being, making this decision to move from a closed turn or a more rounded turn for speed control to a more open turn or a more stretched out C shape or S shape is going to help contribute to speed. The reason this is so important in deeper snow is because the snow grabs your lower legs, your bindings, your boots. There's more drag and there's more kind of speed control in a natural way through those conditions. So it's really important that I adjust my riding when the snow gets deeper to be able to open up that turn shape, maintain speed, spend more time traveling down the hill to combat the natural speed management that deeper snow gives me. So now I've had a chance to do a little warm up on the way down to the lift. We're heading up to the upper mountain. You can see lots of good pockets of snow around, so I know we'll go find some deeper stuff, and we'll get into unpacking the the dreaded advice of just leaning back in powder. It's just going to be fun. So top tip number two for riding powder is always whenever we're told to lean back. So there is a subtlety to this. It's not all about leaning back to the tail of the board trying to pull the leg up. If you've ever tried riding like this, you know you're just going to get a real tired back leg. And that's often the complaint that we hear when we're riding powder. How do I do this without getting a tired back leg? For goofy riders, much of the same, really straining and straightening that front leg to try and get some lift. Now, if you want to rearrange this and do this in a slightly better way, basically what we're going to be doing is lowering our hips slightly and moving them ever so slightly more towards the tail of the snowboard, and that allows us to keep a little bit of light flexion and bend in that leading leg, which is easy then for us to redirect the snowboard through the new turn. Now for a right foot forward rider, same thing. Relaxed legs, lowered hips towards the tail of the board, keeping that bend in that leading leg. And again, really easy to keep redirecting the board as and when we want to. So for a little comparison look, if I lean all the way back like my mates would tell me to do, it takes a while for that turn to get started. And of course the board does stay afloat, there's no doubt. But what it does make it harder to do is start that next turn as controlled as you would like to. You'll often get a sensation that it just takes longer than you want it to redirect and get the turn started. So I'll rearrange myself now, and let's get me lowered towards the tail of the board with some bend in that front leg. Instantly feel a change in response in the snowboard as a result when I'm trying to redirect the snowboard into the new turn, particularly into my toe side turn, which is often a point of pain for riders in deeper snow as they struggle to get the board to go where they want it to through their toe turn. And this is a really good insight into why that would be the case for a lot of riders. So you can see, like, I'm really working hard to keep some bend in that front leg, and even going through some chop at this time of day at the resort, still able to keep that board tracking through the snow where I want it to and moving forward smoothly in the deeper stuff. Like a really simple analogy for this kind of, redistribution of weight, if you like, on your board is, imagine a boat floating in the water, and you want to kind of trim the nose of the boat up and have it move forward. So imagine you got 10 people in the boat, 5 on the left side, 5 on the right side, and all we're going to think about doing as we're riding here is just transferring more people to the back of the boat. And ideally for me, if ever I think of it this way, I kind of usually end up with 4 people at the front and 6 at the back. That's the subtle redistribution of my weight that I'm thinking about, not this massive movement that's going to tire me out and make it harder for me to come back from. So a good little insight into my mind when I ride conditions like this. That should give you a really good idea of just how subtle this weight distribution can be for effective riding in powder. And by less is more in a way, by doing less of these big movements, that's what conserves my energy through the day. So if I do want to spend the whole day riding without feeling those sore muscles, this is the sort of stuff that I'm doing. Okay, so top tip number 3 was to keep a flatter snowboard to help maintain a little bit of float as you roll through some deeper snow. So you can see, got some really good conditions for this, but if you imagine every time you go through making a turn, as soon as you put the board and tip it up on edge, it's going to cut down into the snow. And just add the fact that the snow's going to drag on the boots and the bindings, your lower legs, all that extra resistance really cuts the board down and in to the snowpack, and it slows you down. So the goal really is to get the snowboard flatter, get a little bit more float under that surface area, and that's going to allow us to maintain speed and float on top of this deeper snow. So as far as how you can actually do that in a practical way, let's give you a little look. So as we slide away, I'm using my more open turn shape naturally that we talked about. I'm in my slightly seated back position with a bent front leg, nice and relaxed. And the secret now is to keep my hips, shoulders and head more on top of the snowboard. So having a flatter snowboard does not mean that you're going to be riding slower by any means. All it means is that you have to focus on keeping more of the mass, more on top of the board, more of the time. And however this translates best to you as a rider is what you should be using. So for example, I'm a pretty foot focused rider, and so for me a flatter snowboard means that I'm thinking about feeling more of the flats of my feet in my boots more often, instead of really pressuring through the balls of the feet or the heels of the feet. I'm really trying to make sure that those feet are as flat as possible. So that's a big focus for me. So that should give you an idea of kind of 3 simple tips that can be used by riders of all levels really when the snow gets deep. Like I said, this is more general considerations and tactics to get around, just to help extend your days when the snow is like this. Probably going to find that you can get more laps, you'll be less tired, and for me really that's kind of the goal, is to figure out ways that I can continue to snowboard without burning myself out. But when you've got conditions like this, it's really a sweet opportunity to put it all together. So a little bit more down, back towards the tail, good flex in that front leg, just to help me as I move through this deeper snow. I've got a little bit more of a pitch, bit more steepness, which is going to help me with the speed, but I'm still going to be looking to keep more of an open turn shape down the hill. And as I mentioned already, a slightly flatter snowboard. So I'm going to glue it all together and I'm going to go and enjoy what's out here in front of me. Whoa. Oh, epic. So hopefully 3 good, simple tips for you to help get the most out of your powder riding. And obviously if this has been good for you, your riding, it'd be great for you to subscribe, wait for the next videos, drop some comments below. And you know, if you've got any topics that you want me to unpack and explore, then drop those in the comments below as well. And we'll keep some of this snowboarding content coming.